Hi, my name is Jesse Valentine Ports, and this is Architecture and Design with Valentine. Hi, my name is Jesse Valentine Ports. I'm here today with my good friend Sherry Gers, and we're going to talk a little bit about progressive architecture. This is a great interest of mine. I've been an architect involved in the field for about 16 years now, not including school work, which was another 5 years before that. And I'm much more interested in not the conventional building typologies we see today, but how we can push architecture forward in the future to make basically a better world for all of us. Topic one I'd like to talk about would be self-made buildings. And I don't know if you're familiar with the concept, but do you know about 3D printing at all?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, 3D printing is a new technology that's come about in the past 10 or so years. It's basically take the idea of, your laser printer. That's a typical printer you'd connect to a computer, but a 3D printer takes material and takes a computer model and gradually builds that up in order to be a physical object. So nowadays they can make things out of metal, plastic, ceramic, to a variety of different scales. They're up to about, I think, 0.2 of a millimeter precision at this point, but I'm sure it's going to get better all the time. And recently they invented, or is in development now in India, a 3D printer that's basically the size of a housing lot. So it's like a giant gantry crane with a nozzle attached that is computer controlled, and they use high strength concrete that's reinforced with a fiber, and it allows you to create walls of whatever shapes you have programmed into the computer.
So let me understand, what is the output? I mean, I think of a printer, I think of a piece of paper coming out of my printer.
Right.
What's the output that you're talking about?
I'm talking about somebody designing a house within the computer, erecting the machinery on the site, and building the house with the computer.
What comes out of the printer?
Concrete.
Really?
In this case,
Okay.
it would be concrete. Typically you see much smaller 3D printers these days, and they would be, say, about a meter cube in size, and they gradually build up layers of whatever material you're using in order to have this meter cube of whatever you're designing, whether it's a wristband, a cup, some new special iPhone case that's also a tripod.
So instead of ink, there's a different...
Right, instead of ink, you're
Yeah.
using actual material.
Okay. Wow. A whole house could be built like this.
It's in process right now, yeah. They're developing the technology. And I think it's really exciting because by using the computer, we have so much greater control over material than if we're trying to communicate it amongst ourselves just using words. It's hard for human beings to understand, a level of geometry to that detail. It's easily communicatable and easily buildable. So, you could have curved walls, you could have curved forms that are basically not even just simple curves, but complex curves in multiple directions, multiple axes.
That would be the output.
That would be the output.
And the output occurs because of whatever the computer operator...
Right, whatever the designer and the architect has decided to do, yeah.
So you could, there could be windows inside of these walls, and
Oh, absolutely.
doors, and
Yeah.
different kinds of shapes.
Right, so out of the printer you would have openings designed to insert your windows, and those also could be 3D printed to fit exactly.
So this is called self-made.
This is what I'm calling. Self-made buildings is like the next step beyond this. This is a 3D printed structure.
Okay.
So this would be a structure that is built with the assistance of people, but not necessarily actually put together by people.
Mm-hmm.
So the next step beyond that would be self-assembling buildings where we have robots the size of ants or smaller down to the micro scale actually taking individual building materials, like whether it be grains of sand, parts of metal, whatever, and constructing those into the greater whole. So I imagine this kind of swarm technology will be maybe 50 years down the line. But right now we're just on the verge of actually having buildings that we can construct with large robots instead of swarms of tiny robots.
I think of robots, in a very old-fashioned way, with a little figure of this is so silly, of a man,
Uh-huh.
or a neutered body with little arms and legs, and
Yeah.
I'm sure, I know that's not what you mean.
No, not at all. These would not be sentient in any sense, and they would not look anthropomorphic at all.
Very good description. So, how would architects be chosen to? Who would choose to build in this way?
I think we're always looking for new building technologies, and one of the big things you see in construction is that the speed at which something can be constructed is a huge factor these days. This is part of the reason why prefabrication is a very big movement in architecture these days. Instead of building things on site, we're building them in a factory,
Uh-huh.
because when you build it in a factory, your level of precision goes way up. You can basically streamline the process a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And you can
there
control
there are much fewer mistakes. You can have a much better control over what you're doing. If you're just going out into a field and building something, as opposed to building it in a clean room, there's a huge amount of difference in what you can do.
And so a client would purchase something that, or request something that is maybe a combination of prefab and new design, or
Well,
fresh
yeah,
design.
it would be fresh design oriented specifically towards that client, as opposed to just doing sort of a cookie cutter model where they take existing pieces and assemble them on the site to look like whether you're Spanish colonial, New England style clapboard siding or whatever. That's, you could call that a Fordian technology of construction, like Henry Ford, assembly line, everybody gets the same Model T as long as it's black.
Oh, yeah.
In post-Fordian construction methodologies, it's custom made to the individual
Right.
and assembled by the machines to suit them. So it's a manufacturing technology that's very similar to a factory, but it's completely couture in that it is custom designed and fitted to the client.
This will be expensive.
Not necessarily. It could be cheaper.
How could that happen?
Well, if you look at one of the biggest costs in building today is not materials, but it's labor.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a huge cost of labor, especially if you're building on site. It generally takes 2 to 3 times longer, at least, to build something in situ versus building it in a factory.
Oh.
Now, with a 3D printed building, you would be building it in situ, so it would fit perfectly on the site, and yet you would have perhaps even faster construction times than you would have doing a prefabricated structure that had to be shipped onto the site from a remote location.
So the economics of it are are being changed up. The
Right.
production of it, the relationship between the designer and the client
Mm-hmm.
is changing.
Yeah.
Like in what ways?
Well, I suppose that's something we still need to find out, because this is just an emerging technology, and how it actually works in the real marketplace has to be determined. But I think it has a great potential. This will be something for architects to guide their clients into, so that they can understand that there is a much greater potential than what they have been experiencing in architecture in the past.
Mhm.